rules. I don't have to repeat them from last week. You don't use your phones. You have to pay attention. You have questions you ask. 100% participation in the class. You don't doze off. You don't sleep in my class. And you don't sign for someone who is not here. I believe we are all clear with the rules. All right. Thank you very much. And I don't want people to walk around aimlessly. No one is leaving their class without a justifiable reason. Please. All right. Thank you so much. So last week we had no other person than the president of the university take the class, and he took us through some basic things that as young people we need to learn, we need to know, and we need to imbibe as we progress in this life. Today's class is one that I consider as one of the most important for you guys, because at this level some of us didn't have this opportunity, and we didn't have people like today's guest lecturer speaking to us when we were in level 200. And if there's any other thing to be done, Christian, you have come to see right now. Thank you so much. Please sit down. So I will do the introduction. I will take anyone at random, quick put of hands when we are done. Is that fair? All right, thank you very much. So by way of introduction, our first lecturer of the day is a media personality. He is a public speaker par excellence. And for those of you who listen to radio, he's a morning show at City FM. He also knows a point of view on City TV. He's a general manager, City TV and City FM. By way of education, he attended the prestigious Presbyterian Voices University, Presec. Let's see my hands those who are protecting nobody.
Kasman.
He went to
Sorry. What is
yeah, so he attended Presec, and from Presec he continued education at the University of Ghana, where he had a distinction in economics. He had a distinction in economics, and he had an MBA from the University of Warwick, the UK. And ladies and gentlemen, let's start together and welcome Bernard.
I'm very happy to be here. This is my second time coming. The first time I came, who sent me to Tonbush. So today I decided to come earlier, and I'm really excited to be here. I'm a bit tight. I don't know about leadership. If you don't have any questions, I'm very happy. I'm not desperate to be here than you, so if you don't
You guys are better, not something that is there and then we are influencing it. I reject that. So I mean, that's leadership. So a lot of people want to sort of compartmentalize leadership to be just political leadership, which I know political leadership is very important. The fact that you are in a position doesn't make you a leader, because if you don't influence anything positively, you are just an imposter. Please, are we getting that straight? So you may not get this situation. When I was in Legon, things were much simpler. I was the best, and this Legon being the best, my smallest class was as big as this. I mean, how can you be educated? And I'm learning economics, and there are equations. It's not like some guy just coming to rattle on leadership. The guy is coming to draw in, and I'm sitting at the back, and I can't see properly. I didn't even have glasses. Do you get me? So you guys have a big task, right? Take this course seriously. So you can kind of say, oh, you know what, Charlie, This course don't write exam. You didn't Avle cry, they bore me. So let me just kind of sit on. I went to do my MBA at Warwick Business School. There were 72 people in that class. I didn't enjoy the MBA in terms of the class. The behavioral spectrum, every single course you had to do it in a syndicate group. Counting paper, some guy who keeps interrupting you because he thinks black people don't have sense, and then some I mean the whole thing was just annoying. So I did the MBA, I passed it. How you can achieve with people you don't like. That's the most important lesson I learned. And so they were very smart in creating a leadership program where the MBA forces leadership out of you, not by writing it on a blackboard, but by putting you in a difficult situation. Do you understand? So this course is important because this is the course that will teach you it's not poverty, it's not religion, it's not ignorance, it is leadership. Simple. Right? So the most important course is leadership. And you don't learn leadership by going to Gimpa to do a leadership masters. That's not how you do leadership. You do leadership by being put in a difficult situation. Do you understand me? So it's like you are in a class, you are hungry, the lecturer is annoying you, your girlfriend is not texting you. But if you can concentrate, you need to change your whole orientation that challenges on class theme. They said good to great. So there's nothing wrong with you and Paul, is if you can retrieve it. So memory is not a bad thing. The only thing is that our education solves for only memory without imagination, right? But that's a different discussion. So the point I'm making to you is that leadership is the most important thing you will learn anywhere in the world. If a university has the sense to make it a course and you think it's not important, because trust me, when you leave here, every problem you face, so many people are being born, there aren't enough resources available for them, and our leaders are leading us very poorly. So one of the things I would do if I were you is to say, I want this institution to mold me into an effective leader before I leave here, right? And that doesn't come by running for office necessarily or getting a billboard. It's developing the discipline and the behavior that can make you tenacious. Am I making sense? Education is about making the person better. It's not about passing an exam or getting a degree. It's about becoming a better human being. Everything I am is the kind of education I have. And my education has not just been in the classroom. When I was on campus, I used to do, somebody asked me, how are you able to combine, my God, it was crazy, level secretary. That means you write number 3, what else? And I write 10. I was the head of student broadcasting, showing early, I have to go and MC a program, come and speak to students. My driver is picking the kids. After that, I'll meet them and go home, teach them homework. Now, if I can't do that in level 300, I'll just be a useless man. And it's not about whether I pass the exam or not. It's about whether I have the breadth insight to manage complexity. That's what makes you a leader. So it's not. So if you are here, you don't volunteer, you haven't learned anything, right? So this is the crucible for bringing the best in you. So take it seriously. You are in the top. When I was in Legon, we were in a room. When my dad was in Legon, my dad finished Legon in 1970 something. He was a balcony where you go and stretch and you go and shout, "Obia ya boa." That's what you do. So basically, there were 2 in a room, the balcony, they put their stuff and they go and shout. When I was in Legon, and so there were 8 of us in the outer room. So how do you resolve it? You go and learn and come at 1 a.m., come and wake Aloski up, 2 go and study and you sleep. That's what we did. So what kind of education am I going to get? Well, yeah, maybe I did you and Paul, but if I can survive in that environment, I'm going to outlast you in a difficult civil service where people are corrupt, but I will survive. Do you understand what I'm saying? I make the most of it. So my education was not the fact that I understand what the Laffer curve is. The education sounds sensible when I talk to 200 students without preparation. That's what education does for you. Are you following what I'm saying? Okay. Good. Now, can't change the world. Africa's growth was interrupted by colonialism. 18 whatever, the Berlin Conference. In Ghana, exploit raw materials, do rails down, ship them to Europe. If you don't understand that and all you want to do is to go on holidays in London, you are part of Africa's problem. You need to know that we are in a struggle for, yes, you need to understand when I was in Geneva last week or 2 weeks ago for a conference, right? And you're traveling, you're at the airport, and some guy who has half of your education is asking you to look like I want to stow away. But yeah, most of my brothers will get the chance, they'll stow away. We don't have respect for, we haven't developed our continent. And we have to take responsibility for that. And if you are in the top 1,000 of people getting this education, you are a leader. And if you don't understand the context of Africa, geopolitics, development, and you think it's all about just passing, your parents are annoying you, let me just get a degree. No. You are the guys to free the continent. Because where we are is somebody's orchestration. Somebody thought about it and planned it. That we can't talk to each other. So if you go to a conference in Europe, all the Francophones are speaking to each other, Anglophones are fighting. We don't. So instead of shoe company, how many shoes do you produce? Let's assume you produce. In their car, it's not in a good place. The first job of a leader is to define reality. Free SHS, good idea, badly implemented. Presec, when I was there, 98 was when I graduated. I went in 96, right? I was 15 when I went. 4 science classes, 2 general arts classes, 1 visual art class, 1 agri class. The whole Form 1 group was 413 boys. I went to Presec last month to speak at the assembly. Science has 24 streams. Guys, so when I was in Presec, A1 was art, A2 was art, B1 was business, B2 was business, C was agric, D was visual art, and then E, F. E was biology, F was bio and maths, G, H, maths. Now A, B, C, D till 24 is all science. We haven't added art. What kind of education are they getting? You don't think that's a problem? Or you don't think it affects you? Form your company. Your father is a millionaire. Okay, you're going to hire somebody who was one of 200,000 people being trained, who can't even see the blackboard properly. Errors. So we have to think about those things. Are you following what I'm saying? So the first job of a leader is to define the reality. That's very important. And our reality is that Africa has a development struggle. And our leaders are really either too scared to face it or not tactical enough to deal with it. Right? Kwame Nkrumah's ideas are great. I love him. You need to read all his books. If you are 25, you haven't read Kwame Nkrumah's book, shame on you. Shame on you. Yes. It shouldn't be in your course outline. You should read it. You should read it. You've not read an Nkrumah book? You are not educated as an African. Have you read Ngugi wa Thiong'o? Do you know who he is? These are very important things. You need to understand, because your job is to know your reality. Your reality is that when the guy talking to you was in Presec, there were only 8 streams. But now in your year, there are 24 science streams, over 35 streams. The school has 5,400 students. When I was there, we were 400. The people in front of me were 350, and those ahead were 300. So the whole school is about 1,000. Now, Form 1, Form 2, Form 3 is 5,400. When I went, they had Form 2s were home, and they couldn't even do the assembly in the assembly hall. I mean, you finish school, you don't even know who your mate is. This is the situation, and we are mass producing these guys to come and work in our civil service and want to compete with the French and the Japanese. And then you say, me, I'm MPP or NDC. You are not serious. We have a developmental challenge. So, being in the top 1,000 of Ghanaians, you have to subject yourself to discipline. Which brings me to my second point. Leadership is not cheap. It has a price. The price tag of leadership is called sacrifice. Leadership is not cheap. When I was JCR secretary, I was going to announce JCR meetings, holding a megaphone. We are going to do a cleanup on Saturday. So I'm Thursday standing in front of Annex A. Annex A, yeah. Leadership now. So, oh, mommy, something, insult you. Somebody spit on you. Do I get angry? No. They will insult you. If you don't want to be, people insult me every day. There are even radio shows dedicated to me that just insult me. If you want to be a leader, sacrifice is part of it. So leadership is not a comfortable life. Everything doesn't have to be arranged for you. So the first job of a leader is to define reality. Second thing, the price tag. So it's not a post. That's the problem in Africa. Now, Ghana is broke, right? People want to be president. But it's not a sacrificial job, because Article 71 office holders are the best paid. Our politicians take the most money. They are not leaders. You are riding in a V8 which can build a chips compound, and you're 10 times what an average teacher is paid. And then you even come to, you understand? So rushing into political office is not leadership. It's thinking about influencing society for the better. That's leadership. Which brings me to the original point. The division of leadership is influence. Leadership is not a post. We are too post conscious. I'm the cupboard boy. I'm the class prefect. Most of the people who were prefects when I was in Presec, I don't know where they are. Some of the great change makers among my mates, Bright Simmons and co, they are not even political anything. So stop deceiving yourself with posts. Are you following what I'm saying? Good. So I'm saying that leadership will cost you something. It's not cheap. And you must prepare yourself for it. Your mind must be broad. You must have a keen sense of the world. Then you must develop personal discipline. Because what destroys leaders, if I can't trust you with money, then I can't trust you with people's destinies. So if you are not a steward, if I give you 200 cities to buy something, the change is 12 cities, and you tell 12 cities, I don't give it back to you, you will be a bad leader. Because if somebody will steal 2 cities, he will steal 2,000. And if you steal 2,000, you steal 10,000. And if you steal, he will lie. And if you lie, he will kill. Yes. So you don't measure people by how much the size they've stolen. If you have a brother who steals 2 cities, beat it out of him. Or pray it out of them. Because if they steal 2, they'll steal 20. So it takes me to the second point about discipline. Yes, when we talk about Ghana's dystopia, people say, well, it's the citizens. When they are in opposition, they say the government is bad. When they are in government, they say it's the citizens. Yes, citizens have to do better. But leadership sets the tone. And I'm saying that most of our leaders don't understand sacrifice. When they come to you for your votes, don't just vote for them because you are Ewe and NDC. No. Or Ashanti MPP. No, reject that. Ask them questions. Find out whether they've thought about what they are saying. Check their track record. It's not how eloquent they are. What have they done? You don't just need to become president. What have you done? In China, I knew from 2012 that Xi Jinping will be president because the China expert I interviewed said to me, his province has been the most profitable. So he's gearing for leadership. They knew he was going to take over from whoever was there at the time. All of you must be informed about politics. At the end of this class, by the next time the next speaker comes, so you have politicians to come and argue. Because at the time, we were just got parties arguing on a radio station. It was new. Calling a radio station and say, hey, my name is, can we do this? Because for media of that time was just about politics and discussions. But now I'm on air in 2023. We've had 30 years of the development time. We are moving from information to insight. So I cannot just come and air and be doing the same thing. So my point is that my contribution is changing the way morning radio is structured to make it intelligent. What you're doing, engineer, builder, whatever. How are you changing that thing? The point is not to study the system to become a master of it. The point is to change it. So I don't want to be a successful morning show host who will win awards because I sat in a chair and influenced the same old crazy guys for 10 years. No, that's not what I want to do. I want to redefine the way that initially when you start from the bottom, you feel like it's just a question of being accepted. And I went through that phase where people were like, this guy cry, we don't like what he's doing. So you have to first be accepted as a presenter. You have to do well and be recognized. But recognition, thank you, recognition of your excellence is not your job as a leader. Your job as a leader is to say, how can I make this thing better for the next generation? So right now, if you want to be a journalist at my station, you need to understand numbers. You need to understand data. You need to understand graphs. You need to understand many things. When I was going to do journalism as a young boy, you just needed to have a good voice and write well. Now, coding is even part of your job. A lot of money. He's come back to Ghana. He said when he was in the US, he tried to get a job in Ghana, realized that transitioning from working in Wall Street to working in Accra was tough because he lived in the US for like 15 years, right? So he realized that there's a gap where people who have a good education abroad or wherever who want to reintegrate into Ghana, they need a certain space where they can learn. So he started an NGO where for 2 years you will go to a rural community to teach. The school will not pay you, he will pay you. You will live in a regular house and you will have to solve a problem. And there are so many guys going for that thing. Because you can be working in Geneva, doing well, sitting on a tram, and then they post you to Kumasi to be the head of customer management for Zenith Bank. It's a different ball game. If you don't have a context for Kumasi, you will break. Do you know what I'm saying? So his job in coming back to Ghana was not to just come and start a successful business and say, I was working in Wall Street, I'm working at Zenith Bank. That's great. But what he's doing is he's changing, based on his experience, he's changing the narrative for making it easier for people who are trained abroad to reintegrate back into Ghanaian society. And by the way, our diasporans are very crucial for our development. Right? I know some of you, your school fees are being paid by diasporans, cousins, aunties, mothers abroad. Those guys are very crucial because they'll provide the economic might to change our story. So never forget that your true job as a leader is to create positive change. And some of that change, you will not live to see it. Which is why the price tag of leadership is sacrifice. Kwame Nkrumah is our greatest leader, politically. He didn't see half of the things. He didn't hear half of it. If only he would hear. One of the things sometimes I fantasize and say, God, can I have an interview with former leaders? Because if he knew how he shaped our minds, he would never know. Right? But maybe he would. Because he's written books and the books are still speaking. So even though he's dead, he still speaks. So that brings me to another thing. We are very interested in instant gratification and immediate recognition. Right? And you want to get the honor. The greatest leaders need to change your life. You are is people. I'll explain. In this university, right? The buildings are great. The air conditions are nice. The cars are okay. The camera is great. As soon as he signs the check to buy these things, they begin to depreciate in value. If you do a bit of accounting, you understand that once you buy an asset, it begins to depreciate. The only thing that improves, hopefully, is you. Hopefully. Because some people come to university and deteriorate because of foolishness. But hopefully, you get me? So, of all the assets Fred Bagonluri oversees, it's not the football pitch or the building or the camera. The asset that appreciates is you. Because you came in ignorant, confused, and timid. You left strong, clear, and powerful. Yeah. So, now what does that mean? What does that mean? It means that if he is wise, he will spend more on you than on the light and the camera. If he's wise. So the lesson John Maxwell says, the most appreciable asset of a leader is people. So if you go to two companies, the difference between a wise and a foolish MD is not always what they say. If they are buying V8s for themselves, they are buying the tools. I went to a place, I met some bank managers and they were admiring each other's cars. I said, look at these people. They say, your own, the Bluetooth, they work. Hey, Charlie, it'd be nice, pound. And these are men in their 50s. So, he said, my machine, when I open them, see, I even get pushed to talk something. Your country can't create one with a car. You are working in a bank, lending money to people, and you have a toy car and you are happy about it. Meanwhile, a wise leader will spend. I'm not saying don't buy cars, so that's what I'm saying. Your most appreciable asset is a human being. So, you need to learn that now. That the most important thing in this thing is the people sitting next to you, not me. Again, we misunderstand knowledge. We think knowledge is vertical. I'll come and talk plenty. The real knowledge is horizontal. I had a mate who never went for lectures. How did I get a first class? When I go to class and come, we have a formaker board, and I'll come and teach him what was taught in class. You will only remember what you teach somebody else. Right? So develop horizontal networks of learning. That's what will actually make you know more. Study groups, very important. So it's not just the lectures. Come for lectures, but when you go, discuss it in a meaningful way. Let somebody explain how he got it, and let you explain how you got yours. And say, how come I didn't see it your way? Okay, then you can merge it into proper knowledge. So these days of, hey, don't copy my work. Hey, me alone, I want to learn. I'll go and learn. I'll go and sit in the class. Open, you know one of the things I like most when we were in Preside, there were some guys, they learn. I don't know where any of them are. They even learn to intimidate you. And when they are learning, when you come, no, hey, what are you coming to do? Meanwhile, the geniuses, there was a guy, when I was in Legon, I was struggling with maths at level 100. There was a guy called Doji Atimu. He was in St. Augustine's College. Oh my God. He will go and sing choir practice and come back. And we are doing study group. We can't solve a champions projectile something. He said, oh, Bernard, but this is so easy. Then he'll teach you. He'll spend like 30 minutes teaching us. Develop the networks of learning properly. And don't just put your friends, people from your same secondary school, people from your hometown. No. Don't do that. Get people who are not from your same social circle and work with them. So your knowledge will be rigorous. Am I making sense? So the last point on leadership is what I've just said, that the most appreciable asset of a leader is people. One of the evidences that our leaders are not leading properly is that they don't spend as much on us as they spend on other things. Do you get my point? Which is why I fundamentally agreed with free SHS in the sense of spend money on education. They may not be doing it the right way, but the idea that you want every citizen to go to school is a brilliant idea. And for that, I will forever be grateful to the president. I criticize him a lot, but I know free SHS could have been better done, but to have the sense to say that in my time as president, think about that. Imagine a country where everybody can read and write. Do you know how powerful that is? How many can read and write and think? That's amazing. That's transformational. So the job of the next president is to build on it, to make it better. Our politics makes it look like, well, the best thing since sliced bread, if you are MPP. Free SHS is the worst thing since whatever, if you are NDC. That's just stupid. Yet here, and everything you're divided, you're not wise. There should be things that should be national. There are things that should be sacrosanct. There are things we shouldn't touch with politics to grow in your mind. My mind is a garden. I can kill weeds, kill snakes, and plant flowers. So I decide what grows in my mind. Because without a mind, you can't do anything. And the truth is that and it brings me to media now, as I conclude. Now, I'm going to give you a simple equation. In every individual is a brain, right? Okay, we hope so. There's a brain in everybody's mind. Now, every brain has a mind, right? So the brain is the matter, the mind is the immaterial, right? Now, every mind has a worldview, right? And every worldview, there's a shaper behind every worldview. Am I making sense? So there's a worldview in every mind. How you see family, how you see money, how you see women, how you see gender. There's a worldview. Now that worldview is shaped. Now every shaper has an agenda. Now my argument is that in our day, the greatest shaper is media. Not just radio and television. So in the past, family was a very fantastic shaper, but there are parents who have lost their kids to social media. Right? Politics was a great shaper, but you can organize on media. Religion was a great shaper, but people are now preaching both good and bad things on media. So my argument is that 30 years ago, the greatest companies were manufacturing companies, right? It's Facebook, they call it, I forget the name they call it now, Beta or whatever, Alibaba. They are all they are media companies. So my point is that the fact that the top 10 companies are media companies tells you that we are in the media era. So look, I couldn't go to school. Education was a great shit. You can have a PhD doing Coursera. You can do Zoom to school, for God's sake. Board meetings, the mindsets of people. Right? So we cannot allow that media shaper to go offside. We need three things. We need visionary people owning it. Right? People who own it. So we need great entrepreneurs. So some of you have to be entrepreneurial. You start with your own media company, very small, but you grow and aggregate. Of great values, right? Because some of the things they show don't reflect the kind of society us into where we want to go. And a quality practitioner is a journalist, a graphic designer, an editor. He calls it the reasoned public discourse. Just society without reasoned public discourse. In Ghana, when I got said and go and join the winners to give people loans, it's the nation. But here, if you are eloquent and you can do a funeral announcement, they put you on radio to host a show. And we listen to them and we laugh and we think we are developing a society. And they think that by working in bank and working in wherever, a platform to do something meaningful that will change the ecosystem, that will be better for us all. It is our job as media owners to create viable media businesses. But until we do that, I still want to encourage you. Take an internship in a media house. Understand the way the world works. Go on a... Don't you dare, because our skeletons in the grave will not give you rest. I'm telling you. Because the kind of thing you're getting here, we couldn't get it. He went to Nandom Secondary, hustled his way to the US, created 50 inventions. There were days he didn't even have food to eat. Do you know how hot Nandom is? To go to school, walk 5 kilometers without food in your stomach, and you end up at Siemens and you are beating the Germans and Americans, and you live at Agbogba. And when there's no Uber, you don't want to come to class. You must be tripping. You are smoking something crazy. You are smoking. You are smoking something that is out there. It's cheap quality. Do you know what I'm saying? He was in Nandom. He didn't ask me to say this. I know him. I was the first journalist to interview him. He was in Nandom Secondary, then went to St. Augustine's for A level. Hustled MIT, competing with all these sharks from Nandom. Do you know where Nandom is? How many of you have gone to Nandom before? Yeah. Right? Trained in Nandom Secondary, not even St. Francis Xavier, which they claim is better. You get me? So, guys, I hope I'm not like shouting on you or anything. Me, when I meet people, I'm wild because me, talking is my profession. But I'm saying to you that if the kind of thing being done here is true, the evidence will show after 10 years when you take over leadership. And I know you'll not disappoint me. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. I told you guys we're going to have a good time, isn't it? I'm sure you all learned something. But for the records, St. Francis Xavier is better than Nandom Sec. All right. So if there are any questions, quickly, I'll take like 3 questions. If anyone has a question, just raise your hand. We'll bring you the mic. Quickly. Any questions? All right. Mr. President has a question.
I have a question, and I'm asking a question to encourage you guys to ask questions, okay? So, Ben, the last 2 weeks has been quite interesting on both the media and the political scene. And I've seen you over the years interview or quote these great people that want to change this beautiful country called Ghana. Are you still confident that we have the right set of people to lead this country?
Wow. Okay, so this is what's happening in Ghana now. People are waking up to, you've done democracy for 30 years, so we kind of know what the 2 leading parties can do. Ghana has the most stable democracy in West Africa, without a doubt, which is a good thing. But we have what is called a choiceless democracy, where NDC and MPP have found a way of governing in their personal interest and not in our interest. People realize this. But the truth is that they've used 30 years to build a very strong system, right? Which I don't have the answer as to how to unravel it, whether from outside or internally. But the point he makes is a very important point about the right set of leaders. What I see is there's a generational shift in voices of influence, right? People are giving me opportunity to talk more. I'm only 42 years old because they are tired of the old voices. So I'm getting all kinds of invitations because they want a new voice. Now, usually a new voice heralds a new season, right? So if we get more new voices who are bringing a new message, then it will give us a new person to choose. Am I making sense to you? So this is a clue that the generation of people in power, both NDC and NPP, have failed us miserably. But that failure includes not preparing the next generation because the requirement to rise in politics will dirty you. You need a paymaster, there's a lot of money, the delegate system is corrupt. You need at least 800,000 CDs to become an MP, if not more. There are few people who can get that genuinely. So once you enter on their terms, you have no chance. So do we have the right people? We are sounding the alarm using our platforms. And you're also raising leaders here. Ashesi is doing the same. Legon is trying their best. Right? When the critical mass, because this is what I think. Few countries do well just because one person is doing a great job. You need a lot of people doing. Don't let this rubbish remain on the street. I will collect it and make it go into the bin. If you don't get there, you can have a great president, you'll still struggle. So it's not just praying for some Rambo leader to come and take over Ghana. What you need is to grow a critical mass of influential, ethical people in various strata of society, media, education, healthcare, local government. So you are the guys, the 20-something guys. Because all of a sudden, people now recognize that this type of education is what we need. So people will save money and pay the fees for you. Even though they went to pre-sec, they will send their child to Christian High. That's a shift. Right? So, Mark, what I see is that I see the beginning of a crack. There's a crack in the system. That Alan thing represents a bit of that. I don't think it will gather enough momentum to make a dent next year. That's my personal view. I hope I'm wrong. But what I see of it is that what you are doing is part of the answer. So if you think about just 2024 elections, you will be despondent. Have a longer term view. Right? So I hope I've made some sense. Thank you.
Right. Thank you very much. Yes. All right. Any other? Okay, go ahead.
Do I have to start? Yes. So my question is, you mentioned that our system was created for us, and it's very evident. The system has been created for the next 15 years and will go on. Now, how sure are you that we can change the system? If there's something that has already been created for us and we just have to adapt to it and follow it, how sure are you that we can change the system? Now, my next question is, we have leaders, we have people as you as leaders, you are the ones educating us. The number of people we have in the society today is very limited. If you die, what happens to us? So,
the people who are okay,
yes.
Okay. So I think it's a very interesting question. So you are saying that the system has been created for us, but the system is not deterministic. Somebody said the whole point is not to predict or analyze history, is to create it. Which I said to you that a leader's job is to change their reality. So how sure am I? Well, somebody has to do it in other African countries, or I have to do it. We need people to, when the light is turned, because now, as I said, your greatness is not you becoming a hero and becoming president. Your greatness is in letting people know to free themselves. So a true leader doesn't come and fight for you. A true leader opens your eyes to free yourself. This is a very important thing. So it's not like I'm coming to say coup d'etat Poland. No. True leaders, they empower you to free yourself. They don't come and say, I'm going to fight, I'm going to, no. All right? So what happens when people like, look, they say, they say, that's powerful. Do you know what that means? We are not afraid of death. So if you kill 1,000, when I get goosebumps when I hear that. Ukum apima, it's very powerful. So they can kill the first batch, another batch will arise, because that batch has been prepared by the guys who are dying. Do you know what I'm saying? So it sounds a bit of fluffy, idealistic, but trust me, a lot of what we need to know, even in our mottos, they are there. Yeah. So how many people are here? Oh, you see the problem? Liverpool, Man U, Arsenal,
Chelsea.
Know their teams. That's the problem.
Yeah, that's true. So any other question? All right, let's put our hands together for our speaker. The very last one.
Yes, so hello. Please, my name is Doreen. Yeah, and you said something about there has to be a lot of lights something like that. So here in the case where you're aspiring to be a leader, how do you get people to vibrate at the same frequency as you're vibrating on? Because sometimes you have a vision, but getting people to see what you see is difficult.
You know, okay, so I'll answer it in two ways. Everybody doesn't have to vibrate on the same frequency on everything. There are the non-negotiables. So for example, Ghana first. If we all agree that we must put Ghana first, that's enough. That's one. Okay, so Ghana first and me second. Okay, or put the country's interest ahead of my tribe, my party. So that's a small shift. So we will not vibrate on the same level on everything, but there are some non-essentials for leadership. So I interviewed a guy called Professor Pat Utomi, and he said something. He said the difference between successful countries and non-successful countries, he's an economist, by the way. He says strong institutions and then a clear strategy. Right? In our context, even the strategy we don't agree. So when MPP comes, NDC comes to change the strategy. So if we can build strong institutions, because you see what you're saying is, if I'm not there, a certain wise man is a French diplomat, it's called Jean Monnet. He said something. He said, nothing is possible without men, but nothing is lasting without institutions. Let me repeat for emphasis. Jean Monnet, research him. Jean Monnet, French guy. He says, nothing is possible without people, because people make a difference. But nothing is lasting without institutions. So when Obama says Africa doesn't need strong men, they need strong institutions, he's right. That you may need a strong man to start the process. Please, breakfast at this time, lunch at this time, homework. So Bernard Avle is not great because, hey, Kwasi, do your homework. Hey, come now, where are you? Hey. The question of personality versus structure. So I've put a structure in place in my house. So I'm building an institution in my house. Do you get it? So the problem is that because the leader is insecure, he wants everything to be about him. So what happens is that the people also pretend when he's there that they are doing the right thing. As soon as they say, Opana is gone, Charlie, let's be free. Do you get it? So that's why it starts with you. You have to be confident enough to let go. And if the thing works in your absence, then you're a proper leader. Read about institutions. There's a book, I'll send a book list to him. There are books on institutions. Everything I'm saying, people have researched it too. There's nothing I've said there which is original. The only which is that we journalists, we aggregate history. We are generalists. So it's easy for us to synthesize a lot of complex things. That's our real job. So I sound very intelligent, but everything I've said, somebody has done a PhD or theorized in it. Okay? So thank you for the question. I think we're done. Okay, there's one guy.
Good afternoon. My name is Kofi Ankama Samoa. My question is, I want to know your take on what is happening on Twitter with respect to the hashtag Occupy Jolobi House.
Wonderful. That's a very good question. Hey, Jolobi is so I understand their approach, and I think they have a good idea. So there was a research that Africa, they call it Afrobarometer, did, right? Of Ghana, Benin, I think 5 countries. Ghana scored, so even though Ghana has the most admired democracy, Ghanaians media landscape, it's easy. Okay. Ghana, but that also means though that Ghanaians tend to just be lazy. They just vote and go to sleep. Good. So what Occupy Jolobi is doing is to say, look, we need to build a protest culture, which is very important. Not just on the government, on rights, different things. When you go to many countries, every day people are showing placards. Hey, free the 20 Cuban revolutionaries, President Biden, whatever. We don't have the protest culture. So when I interviewed the leaders, they said to me that they want to spawn a protest culture, which is brilliant. They may not succeed in getting the government to do everything they want, but that's not the point. They want Ghanaians to know they have a right to protest. They have a right they want, but that's not the point. They want Ghanaians to know they have a right to protest. They have a right for their voice to be heard, not just on the radio, but also on the ground. So the challenge is that most people are happy to just tweet and go and sleep. So you have a 1 million tweets, 200 people. That's not good enough. You need to now translate those tweets into people putting their bodies on the line to say, we have had enough of this. But it takes time to get there. So who has the question? It's a spark of something. It's great. Take part in the debate, but don't leave it there. Get involved on the ground too. Because change doesn't happen it happens here. All right? Thank you for your question. I think I'm done.
Thank you very much. Yes, so I'll call on Joseph Dabuo to do the vote of thanks. Thank you so much. Oh, put your hands together for him.
Oh, okay, guys. So, what? Okay. So, Mr. Bernard, we thank you for coming, and we are so grateful for opening our eyes on certain things because we didn't really know that some of the things you talk about are really happening, and therefore we thank you for opening our eyes on certain things. And I hope after here, everyone who came here will be able to apply what they learned. And I also want to thank Dr. Fred for like initiating the leadership seminar sessions for us to be able to come and learn new things like every week. And so thank Mr. Eugene for making it possible today. And yeah, so as I said, I hope all of you guys were able to apply what you learned today and apply what you told us today. Yeah, so on behalf of the class of 2026, we thank you very much for coming, and we are grateful for coming. We thank you for, even though you had a tight schedule, even though you had, oh, thank you.
Thank you very much. Maybe somehow, I don't know whether it's coincidence or it's well planned. I'm sure that Bernard's class has opened our eyes to a lot of things. We have to start demanding of our leaders what they are required to do. And that's what I'm saying. I don't know whether it's coincidence or it's planned. Next week and next 2 weeks, the guest lecturers we have are people who have probably influenced our democracy for a very long time. And so I believe that you would have the opportunity to ask them all the questions you have to ask, probably why we haven't developed as a country as we should. So next week, let's all come on time. Let's get here before 11:30. So we are reverting to our usual time from next week, 11:30 a.m. and not to sign the attendance sheet before you leave.